We're back on the Mizell Show.
Alanna's advice.
Alanna's advice.
What's going on today?
And everything that comes with Alanna's advice.
Life-altering situation.
Yes, that the advice kind of brings home to.
Check it out.
Yes.
Perfect.
Welcome to the Mizell Show.
An inspiration for a new generation.
Hi, I'm Alanna Mizell, a loving mother of two, a devoted wife to Steven, and an entrepreneur helping women realize their dreams and potential.
And I'm Steven Mizell, caring father of two, a devoted husband to Alanna, and a driving force to help young men prepare for life after college football.
And if that wasn't enough, we're a biracial couple.
She was raised in the North, but I was raised in the South.
The only thing normal about our lives, who am I kidding? It's never normal around here. Join us for the Mizell Show.
Right now. So we are
Steven
back.
just ignores when I say things.
I don't ignore you. I
I literally just said, "Is that funny?" And he goes,
well, I was a laugh.
"That was like a
Oh my
that's
goodness.
not funny."
Well, we are
you're
back
silly.
on the Mizell Show, and we hope your week is off to a great start. This past weekend was Halloween.
November.
It's November. We had Halloween.
What? Briggs is a crazy child. He's hysterical.
He was a fire chief Olaf. We went to two different Halloween events.
Yeah, we did a trunk or treat, and he was a fire chief there.
And then we actually went trick-or-treating for the first time.
Well,
With him.
With him.
Yes.
And he was Olaf that time.
He was Olaf this time. And he said he liked warm hugs.
We got him to say, "Hi, I'm Olaf, and I like warm hugs."
Yes, so if you want to see that, check
and
out
Adele
Alanna's.
was Black Panther.
Adele was Black Panther, but by the end, she was a social activist.
Right, her t-shirt said against
Against
racism.
racism. So she took off the top of her shirt, and she was like, I'm getting hot. And so
And every child fell.
every child fell.
Because
it was
sidewalks
dark.
in Memphis.
Not just in Memphis, but just...
I'm just saying that's where we live, so they got ridges.
They got ridges and tricky. And then also the excitement of the kids running through...
Anyway.
It was exciting.
So last week we talked about Steven's best advice.
Yes, we talked about my best advice. So if you have not listened to that, go check it out. And we gave Alanna a full week and a half plus to think through her best advice.
And I hadn't figured it out until 12 seconds ago.
I think we should live stream our podcast so people can see our facial expressions. Because I mean,
no, because my hair's so greasy right now.
Oh my goodness. I don't think the normal person could even tell that. So yeah, stop prolonging it. So we're now focused on Alanna, and her best advice is she doesn't have it.
That's not true.
What you got?
Don't lie to people. So I don't remember the exact verbatim, but it was actually a quote that I saw that was posted up on the side of a building.
Okay.
That said, "Stop trying to have everybody like you. You don't even like everybody."
Ooh.
So, and the reason that sticks with me is a couple-fold. One, because I struggle with everybody liking me.
But I think that's a deep, dark secret almost everybody probably struggles with.
Well, and I think a part of it probably goes back to when you're a child and just in school and you've got teachers that say, everybody get along. Well, realistically, in a class of 20, everybody's not going to get along.
No.
That's not realistic.
Yes.
So, versus teaching a communal relationship and being able to withstand each other is much better than forcing children to be friends.
Yes.
Because that's not real.
No, it's not real.
Not everybody's going to like you.
And you're setting kids up for this false pretense. And
Right.
yeah.
And I know our kids struggle with that, but I struggle with it immensely. Mm-hmm. And recently, a situation happened where people just didn't like me. And I still don't understand it. And the reality is currently, I don't like them either.
Yeah.
But it hurts more that they didn't like me and I don't understand why versus me not liking them.
Yes. And I think it hurts more because it wasn't in a context in which you had to really like each other. You just had to be communal with each other. You know what I mean? It wasn't where like...
Yeah. So here's where that comes from. Recently, I had accepted, Steven's giving me the look. I had accepted a full-time position doing employee learning and development and engagement, a role that I was so excited about, something that I'm super passionate about. It's what my master's study is in. And after 2 weeks, so 14 days, I was terminated without reason. And because of the way that the job works, it's a 6-month probationary period, and the way that the state of Tennessee works, you don't have to give a reason.
Yeah.
And the only conclusion that we can come to is they just legitimately didn't like me.
I think that's what brings it, you know, this advice or quote that comes to you.
Yeah.
I think you bringing it back all the way to kindergarten or first grade is that people have this whole mindset of when you go into the workforce or you go into certain areas, we have to all be friends and we have to all go out and hang out with each other.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be like that. It has to be a cordial relationship, a cordial, let's work together, but it doesn't have to be something where I like you, but if I don't like you, I'm going to just terminate you.
Here's the thing. I think that we have gone so virtual that we feel like we've got to overemphasize the engagement piece of employees. And just because an employee is engaged doesn't mean that they like everybody that they work with.
Yeah.
So they don't have to like everybody to enjoy the company that they're with. Or
enjoy what they're doing in their day-to-day job.
Right.
Yeah.
And enjoy interactions with other people. Or like there's a level of overcompensation when you get to a stress point that, like, for example, okay, when you are trying to super woo a new guy or new girl or whatever, you put on your best front.
Stop it.
Right?
Yes.
You put on your best front.
You put on your best front.
And I think that there's a component of the first kind of job interviews and everything like that everybody's putting on their best front. And, you know, if they just don't love me, they don't like me, this isn't going well, then we're just going to let them go. But you're missing the coachable moments. You're missing that you haven't set expectations for that person. You're missing this part of relationship that you festered in your head.
But yes.
And that's just not real. And kind of goes with a quote that I said, I think to you, people don't think about you as much as you think about them thinking about you.
Yeah.
Like realistically speaking,
2 quotes.
I know, but they so go together because you get so concerned with somebody not liking you that you end up thinking about them not liking you more than they actually don't like you.
Yeah.
And I've thought about the 2 people that terminated me and the group that made the decision. Oh my gosh, the number of times.
And how do you think they've thought about you since then?
Like none.
Yeah.
Hardly at all. Unless they're interviewing already for my next role and they're doing a comparison situation.
Did you know that I sell makeup? Not only do I sell makeup, but the makeup that I sell is 3D makeup, which allows you to highlight and contour your face in a super simple compact. As a mom, I could not survive without my simplified routine. Not only that, but it's exactly what you need. Exactly when you need it, all in one spot. Go ahead and check out Alanna Mizell on Instagram or alannamizell.com to learn more.
The thing is that when you're talking about your perspective of somebody else and how much you process how somebody else makes you feel, the best advice that, in correlation to both of those quotes, that essentially what I'm getting with is that you are not your story that was created. And this is kind of, all this is super incorporated into therapy that I do. That you are not your story, and to continue to dwell on the pieces of your story has you fixate on the negative components of your life and don't allow you to even question, did I want that?
Yeah.
is that actually what was best for my family? And, you know, so I had accepted this role. I had started this role. I had taken time away from my business, had taken time away from my family to get it all prepared. And now I started, and then not even 3 weeks later, I get terminated. So not even a full month into the job, get terminated. And then part of me was like, well, how do you even know if I would be a good fit? So the only solution is you just don't like me. And then you question yourself.
Yes.
You question your work ethic. You question your ability. You go through shame. You go through judgment. You go through the factor of me stepping away from a traditional role for 2.5 years now. And just the negative narrative correlated to that.
Yes.
And does everybody understand kind of what that looks like to do direct sales, to create a podcast with your husband, what time that takes, and how does that correlate back to business? But you question all of those things. And the more that you assess how somebody else feels about you, the lower you put yourself on a totem pole.
The lower you put yourself in that totem pole, but also it goes back to the lower, not lower, but you also push aside the things you just mentioned. You push aside, like, was this best for me? Were there red flags that I didn't see? But it's just a human nature in you that you immediately feel the guilt, the shame, the frustration. What did I do wrong? How could have I changed this if I would have just did something differently? But at the end of the day, with you being so fresh and so raw into that role, that position, it boils down to just the sheer dislikement of you and who you are as a person. Right. Because in any circumstance, you know, I know...
Which is almost worse than you not doing your job.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely worse. Because, I mean, if you look back on it from a day-to-day perspective of, let's say you work at a factory and you know you're supposed to pack 20 boxes, but you only did 15 boxes 10 out of your first 30 days, you know, hey, I did not pack the boxes. I did not do that. I know I fell short. But in your situation, it's one of those things where they had this conversation with you and said, we're going to move forward and we're going to terminate you. And it was like a generic answer, like didn't meet expectations. And it's just like, how can I meet expectations in the first, so-and-so weeks of a job? Right. And then on top of that, you have, we both come from very competitive backgrounds in which we play sports and watch sports. And it's like, okay, if I have a kid, pardon my French, that sucks at batting, I'm going to give him the principles of how to get better at batting. Hey, you need to do, it's the coaching. You need to do these things to get better at batting. And if you don't do these things, okay, you don't want to get better. I'm not going to say, hey, we're never going to have you bat. We're going to show you how to bat.
So all that to say, but like, where does a person go from here? So you're in the middle of it. And I mean, I'm in the middle of it right now.
I mean, you have to go to.
Hold on one second. You're in the middle of, whether it be my situation or a similar situation, or you find out that like somebody doesn't like you for a reason or no reason that makes no sense to you. Yeah. Where do you go?
I think you have to first of all acknowledge, as hard as it is, you have to acknowledge that they did not like who you were created to be. Like, you are this person.
Right, but that doesn't help the individual.
But it helps the individual to take the time to say, I personally know I did not do anything wrong.
Yeah, but you did, because it's who you uniquely were created to be somebody doesn't like.
But that's who you are.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is the clash and the emotional struggle that happens in that is not, I didn't meet the skill set. It is, you were uniquely designed and I don't like it.
And at that moment, when you feel that is the case in point, you have to understand, well, of all, if they choose to terminate you, you have to move on. But if you are still in that role, you have to understand that this is not going to work out.
Yeah, so I don't mean it necessarily, I'm not asking in terms of a role. I'm saying, what advice would you give from somebody who is sitting in that moment where they realize that somebody doesn't like them? They just don't like them. Like, the scenario goes, well, I mean, I met them. They're nice. I just don't like them.
I mean, it's so many levels of that. Are you saying that person now has to work with them and they're...
I'm just saying in general. You find so you go to a group outing.
Yeah.
And yes, there is so many levels, but I think what hones into kind of the people that listen to our story the most is a generality.
Yeah.
And kind of like the advice that I was talking about, it's like you realize that not everybody's going to like you because you don't like everybody.
Yes.
But it hurts more when you realize that somebody just doesn't like you.
I mean, I can think of a scenario in which I dealt with that.
Okay.
And
then what happened?
Honestly, I had to come to grips with that person did not like me in the workforce because they saw my skill set and my outgoing and my personality was, I'd say, more that they could handle, or it was maybe even to the certain degree, it was a, what's what I'm looking for? It was threatening to them. They felt threatened.
So when you're talking about your outgoing personality, do you feel like that is a skill set that you have that others don't?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the long, drawn-out questionnaire, but that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
Is that so many times the reason that somebody else doesn't like you is one of your strongest skill sets.
Ooh, preach. Yeah, for sure.
Is one of your biggest strengths.
I mean,
so what we're talking about is you're like, that's how you uniquely are, like whatever. Yeah, it is whatever, but realizing that job for my family was never going to be a fit.
Yeah.
Because of the work environment. The actual day-to-day job duties, I would have crushed. I would have literally changed the institution that I was at.
Yeah.
Like, I was fired up about what I was going to be able to do.
Yes.
But the other people putting limitations on me as a human being, that's on them. And what they were fearful of or what they didn't like about me are probably one of the top 3 skill sets that I find joy in myself.
And they don't like.
And they don't like.
Or don't have.
But the 3 skill sets that I say, I've got these and nobody can take them away.
Yeah.
And I think that that's critical when you're talking about humanity.
Yes.
And that so many times what somebody else doesn't like about you is the weakness that they have inside of them.
Yes. And the thing about it is, like you said, go back to kindergarten, it's okay to have that conversation, be like, hey, that person is really talented at that, and you might not ever get there, or you might get there, but right now you're not there. It's okay. And I think it's a crazy example of, for instance, with Adele. And she comes home and
Our daughter Adele.
Our daughter Adele.
Now we have to preface now that Adele, the
singer's back out.
Yeah.
No, prefacing our daughter Adele, and she comes home, and Alanna did this the other day. She didn't realize she did this. She comes home a lot talking about one of her good friends, Anna. And Anna is like a drawer, and it's like she draws, and she just is really good at it. But Adele always hints on how really good Anna is. And the crazy thing is, it's never changed how Adele feels about Anna. Like, I'm not going to be her friend.
Yeah.
But she struggles with where Anna is. And the other day, Alanna...
How she compares herself.
Yes. Alanna, mommy, says to Adele, hey, it's okay that you recognize that Anna is really good at drawing, and you might not feel that you are good as her, but you are trying your best to get there. And now we have 50 and 60-year-old people out there that need that same conversation.
Right.
But instead, they use their power to terminate someone or to...
But what's also interesting about that is that when you actually study leadership techniques and you study accepting diversity, inclusion, and belonging, is actually looking at your biggest weakness as a manager.
Oh, yes.
And asking for support in that specific skill.
I mean, that's something that we hang our hat on every single day. Like, it's just, you look at the facet of just the world in general.
Yeah.
Some of the most successful people hire people that are not only smarter than them, but are stronger than them, smarter than them in areas that they're weak in.
Right.
And the key is they're okay with that. They're okay with saying that.
The best leaders
yeah.
intentionally see their weakness.
Yes.
And hire to those weaknesses.
And they let that person excel in that. And,
right.
And that's the thing that
And you foster that capability. And I think that so many times we are so stuck on the fact that somebody else didn't like us versus realizing that why they didn't like us was actually one of our greatest strengths and one of our biggest weaknesses. We can turn to a human being, a comrade, when you actually look at history and the way that it was designed and those that actually excelled, right? When you look at the colonization of America, and you can watch Hamilton on Disney Plus if you want to.
Yes.
But when you look at it, you look at Benjamin Franklin, who was an engineer and an innovator. Then you compile that with Thomas Jefferson, who was a writer. And you put those two people together. And what did they create? They created the Constitution and the Bill of Rights along with another group of men.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that those are the right men to pick. That's not what I'm getting at. But what I'm getting at is when you look at pivotal times in history, what you see around the table are vastly different human beings. And I think that that's where we're falling short when we come to the table of technology and innovation. We are combating, and we've got this generational gap. We've got these baby boomers that are still trying to take over the millennials, and they're like, but they're so much better at us than technology. Well, then stop trying to do the technology for them and don't fire them because of their ability to do technology. Realize that that's your weakness, but your strength may be grammar. Your strength may be etiquette, maybe professional mannerism.
They need.
So why don't we teach that? That is a lost skill set, is the coachability from a managerial standpoint, and understanding that as a supervisor, it's okay if you don't like everybody, but for you to be better, you need to make them great.
And you need to be okay with being uncomfortable with your weaknesses and letting someone else, quote unquote, shine or letting someone else grow in that, because at the end of the day, it makes the whole organization better.
Right.
But so many times in male-driven or ego-driven positions, people are afraid to do that. And they don't want to do that because it exposes them, but then also goes back to the other thing that we struggle with as people, but they took my shine. Right. If I let them do that, then all of a sudden, they're the ones that get the exposure. They're the ones that get that. Even though you are the quote-unquote CEO, but if I let them highlight the diversity piece and not me, then they'll get the shine that they created this program, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But it's something that it's we see it and we feel it, and we're feeling it even more. I feel like I felt it in my previous role. You feel it, you're feeling it currently right now. And it's something that I think you and people that are going through a situation like you are going to have to continue to have these conversations with each other, just talking through, because you, at the end of the day, you were uniquely built. You know that you have something that a lot of people will never have, that would actually die for. And it's something that they didn't have and they couldn't deal with it.
Right.
But
I think that what is so beautiful in certain relationships and certain friendships is, one thing is, relationships have to go both ways. Like, you don't have a relationship if just one person is inputting and the other person is taking. And I'm talking any kind of relationship, but it's been really interesting to see Steven and one of his friends, Michael, interact with each other, because although Steven is newer in his role, there are still components about Michael that he knows Steven has the strength at. And it's fascinating to watch Michael lower himself and humble himself to realize, my friend and comrade Steven, this is one of his biggest benefits. And I think that's one of the things that Michael doesn't realize is such a phenomenal strength as a manager and is a lost skill set, is realizing I don't have to be the best. And I don't want to be. It's actually better for me to recognize other people's advantages. But what the quote was talking about was, you don't like everybody, so why are you expecting everybody to like you? And what it comes down to when you're looking for jobs and you're trying to provide for your family, I think one of the biggest things that you can hone on to are maybe just 3 core things that you have, that you know that you have, that maybe others don't, or a comprised portfolio of what you have. And I'm not talking about this experience. I'm talking about who you are as a human being. You know what I mean? Like, my ability to retain information is sometimes, fascinately annoying. But it's also something that many people cannot do. So if they don't like me because I can retain information the way that others can't, or that I can connect with people the way that some others can't, the way that I can go cross party lines, so to speak, the way that they can't. That's a skill set that I don't want to change.
Yeah.
That's who I fundamentally am. So I think when you're being forced to look at your core and think that people don't like me or I'm not good enough, well, think about what your core strengths are. And those are just two of mine. But I think that for me, that's been critical. Okay, is this putting into question those core strengths that I have?
Yes.
No. Will I find a role that those core strengths can play out? I believe I will.
I believe, yeah, you have to believe you will. And also, it sometimes, we talk about this a lot on our podcast, is to humble yourself to the bare bottom, to the very smallest piece, and remember the grateful moments. Remember the little pieces that I was uniquely created with these talented, awesome skill sets, and I am not going to change them. I am not going to be fake or phony, but like, God bless me with this. And it's something that I know that I have. And it's something that we, as the people we are today, we know that we have these certain things that we can't. What do we say to our maker, to our God, if we say, yeah, you blessed me with this ability, but I'm going to put this away just for now until I can get what I want. And
because
then I'll
somebody else doesn't like me.
Exactly.
Because you're so fixated on somebody else not liking you.
You're shut down.
You're willing to change yourself.
Change yourself and shut down the blessing that He has created you to be uniquely for this life that we live.
And that's just not something I'm willing to do.
We're not, and that's something that that we and you who are listening have to continue to just remember. And as dark as it may get, as frustrating as it may get through the job search, through the no's, through the rejections, remember, this is something that God created you to do. You have the ability to talk to people and cross party lines. You have the ability to get on a stage. You have the ability to talk to and communicate that some people just don't have that. And you have to be okay with that. And you also have to be okay with walking away or changing a career path. And if you feel that you're not living your God-given abilities each and every day.
Absolutely.
And be okay with it.
Absolutely.
So Alanna's best advice.
So it was a conglomerate of
It was a
quote, but it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was heavy. But we appreciate you guys, as always, checking us out.
Yeah.
And we also say things on this podcast to give us a sense of we got to do it. So the month of November, what are we doing?
Oh, okay. So every month we're going to be doing just what we're grateful for every single day.
Every day in November.
Every day in November. It'll be on my Instagram, but
on Alanna's Instagram,
which is Alanna Mizell. But we're like, it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just something that we're genuinely grateful for because.
And some days we will be dressed, and other days we will be rolling out of bed looking a hot mess. But we're gonna tell you what we're grateful for.
Better believe it, because we get to roll out of bed and look a hot mess.
Amen.
There you go.
Thank you guys for listening.
So if you guys are enjoying this, definitely leave us a review. Give us a feedback. If there's something you guys want us to talk about, reach out to us on our website at themizellshow.com. There is a contact section. You can put it in there. We would love to hear about it. Or you can always go over to Instagram at The Mizell Show. Also, as always, don't forget to screenshot this episode and just add it to your stories and tag us on Instagram, on Facebook at The Mizell Show. Thanks, guys. Are you loving The Mizell Show? Well, we love you all. And did you know that you can have me and Steven talk to your team or a group of 25 of your friends? All it takes is 25 people showing up on either a Zoom call, a Facebook Live, or really anywhere. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later. But how do you get us? So all you have to do is email themizellshow@gmail.com, or you can direct message us on Instagram at The Mizell Show.